evangelize.
Let's go to Dr. David Gushee, who's the president of Evangelicals for Human Rights. Dr. Gushee.
Senator Obama, recently yet another disturbing memo emerged from the Justice Department. This one said that not even interrogation methods that, quote, shock the conscience would be considered torture, nor would they be considered illegal if they had been authorized by the president. Senator Obama, this kind of reasoning shocks the conscience of many millions of Americans and many millions of people of faith here and around the world. Is there justification for policies on the part of our nation that permit physical and mental cruelty toward those who are in our custody?
We have to be clear and unequivocal. We do not torture. Period. We don't torture. Our government does not torture. That should be our position. That should be our position. That will be my position as president. That includes, by the way, renditions. We don't farm out torture. We don't subcontract torture. And the reason this is important is not only because torture does not end up yielding good information. Most intelligence officers agree with that. I met with a distinguished group of former generals who have made it their mission to travel around and talk to presidential candidates and to talk in forums about how this degrades the discipline and the ethos of our military. It is very hard for us when kids, 19, 20, 21, 22 are in Iraq having to make difficult decisions, life or death decisions every day, and are being asked essentially to restrain themselves and operate within the law. And then to find out that our own government is not abiding by these same laws that we are asking them to defend, that is not acceptable. And so my position is going to be absolutely clear. And it is also important for our long-term security to send a message to the world that we will lead not just with our military might, but we are going to lead with our values and our ideals. That we are not a nation that gives away our civil liberties simply because we're scared. And we're always at our worst when we're fearful. And one of the things that my religious faith allows me to do, hopefully, is not to operate out of fear. Fear is a bad counsel. And I want to operate out of hope and out of faith.
We're almost out of time. I asked the same question of Senator Clinton, though, and it's that there are a lot of Americans who believe the conversation going on here tonight is not necessarily appropriate. They believe that religion has far too much influence in public life. What do you say to that?
Well, what I've written in the past, I actually spoke at a Sojourners Forum 2 years ago on this precise issue. And I think that we've fallen into a false debate. On the one hand, there have been elements, many of them in my own party, in the Democratic Party, that believe that any influence of religion whatsoever in the public debate somehow is problematic or violates church and state. On the other hand, there have been those primarily in the other party, in the Republican Party, whose view has been that the separation between church and state shouldn't even be there. And I think both extremes are wrong. What I believe is that all of us come to the public square with our own values and our ideals and our ethics, what we believe. And people of religious faith have the same right to come to that public square with values and ideals that are rooted in their faith. And they have the right to describe them in religious terms, which has been part of our history. As I said in some of my writings, imagine Dr. King, going up before, in front of the Lincoln Memorial and having to scrub all his religious references, or Abraham Lincoln in the second inaugural not being able to refer to God. What religious language can often do is allow us to get outside of ourselves and mobilize around a common good. On the other hand, what those of us of religious faith have to do when we're in the public square is to translate our language into a universal language that can appeal to everybody. And both Lincoln and King did this, and every great leader did it, So, because we are not just a Christian nation. We are a Jewish nation, we are a Buddhist nation, we are a Muslim nation, Hindu nation, and we are a nation of atheists, non-believers. And it is important for us not to try to kill the debate by saying, well, God tells me I'm right, and so I'm not going to listen to you. Rather, we've got to translate whatever it is that we believe into a language that allows for argument, allows for debate, and also allows that we may be wrong. And the biggest danger, I think, for those of us with religious faith when we're in the public sphere is a certain self-righteousness, where we start thinking that, well, you know, I got a direct line to God. You know, that is incompatible with democracy. You may have a direct line to God, but, you know, that is not, the public square is not the place for us to empower ourselves in that way.
Many more questions, I'm sure, but we have to end it there. We're out of time. Senator Barack Obama, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Pleasure.